Good morning, Sir Rudy. Well, I asked my next guest here, I said, when's your birthday? And he said March 1st. So I got up, walked around the room, and then sat down, and then I asked him again. That didn't even work at all. Good morning, everyone. How you all doing? Today is Wednesday, the 27th of July. It is 10 degrees out there. We're looking for a top of 19. And petrol is at $1.72.7. It is going down. Remember, yesterday it was $1.77. What's going on? You and I both know. If this is your first time here, you know what to do. You need to be able to like and share that. And like that smash button, I think it is. 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Every single day. If I'm not on, I'm not on. Oh, I'm so happy about today because I have got a man here we're going to be talking about everything photography and other things. But more so, maybe even talk about what the future of photography is. Because, you know, we've all got our cameras and we're all doing our own selfies. That's what it's all about nowadays, apparently. But before we do that, we know why we're here is that we need to cheers the great man. Cheers, Rudy. Cheers. Coffee is good. Today, by the way, Rude Meister, sorry for speaking over the top of you, Rudy, but today, Rude Meister, I have Wasser und Lemon. That lemon, by the way, Free Thought Domain gave me those wonderful lemons, and I've been just putting that into the water, and it's refreshing my body, as it would do normally. From one Gerald to another Gerald.
All hail Rudy.
All hail the great man, Rudy. Look, I want to get into the story. Not the story. I want to get into the news. We've got memes. We've got your animals. We've got everything, but look, before I do, I'm not going to transition into the word of the day just yet because I'm going to leave it to my guest. So let me introduce to you my guest for the day. That is Brad. Brad Delaney.
That's my business name.
I'm looking at your T-shirt there, mate. How you going?
I'm good, Gerald. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Have you got your jumper there?
I have.
Where's your little jumper? Just hold that up for a second. It's like I know you, and then I said Brad K.
Brad K. Well, that's my business name.
The business name.
Where is it?
There it is.
Can't
come on.
it.
Can't even find it. There it is. Brad K.
On there.
Mate, how you doing? How's it
I'm doing
been?
good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good
Feeling
trip
healthy.
up? Good trip up this morning?
Trip up, yeah. Yeah, M1. It's always a bit dodgy.
It's hectic.
I try not to do it too often.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I managed to manoeuvre my way through Clem Jones Tunnel and all that kind of stuff.
Push everyone out the way.
But, there was an accident just south of Brisbane, and that sort of backed everything up for a bit. But, you know, it is what it is, and I think it's a little bit of foreplanning, I suppose, at the end of the day, and you sort of go, all right, well, I need to be here at 8:30. I'm going to leave my house at 7:15, and that's about just over an hour and a half, and I got here at 8:29 or something, so that's it. So I kind of figured, well, that's how long it takes. It takes how long it takes, so...
I'm always interested in what makes a person get into their business as they do. I mean, you're well renowned here on the Gold Coast and in Brisbane of doing some great headshots. But why photography? Why headshots? So maybe let's go way back to what got you interested into photography.
Okay, so I grew up in a family of artists, and I couldn't draw a stick figure. My mum was a painter. My brother is still a painter. He paints and sells his work. He lives in France. So I couldn't draw a stick figure. But I picked up a camera, I think when I was about 15, and just loved it straight away. I sort of went, oh, okay, I kind of like this. Long story short, had developed an interest in photography. I could tell you about Melbourne and all that kind of stuff, but I left school, came up to the Gold Coast where my dad, by that stage, had developed a company he was a private investigator. So pretty much first job out of school was working as a PI, which enabled me to sort of wander the Gold Coast, shooting photos of people, doing insurance jobs with video and all those types of things.
Stuff.
So I got sort of interested in it that way. Then I started dating a model who needed photos, so I took her photos.
Yeah.
And then her agency said to me, hey, we really like these. Can you shoot some more of our girls? So that was kind of it. And that was just got a bit of a roll on then. And I did lots of stuff, but I was probably a semi-professional photographer for a long time. It wasn't until I went to Japan that I became japansurfphotos.com. and used to swim out into the ocean and take surf photos of people, you know, what I used to call you and me surfers, as opposed to professional surfers. A lot of surf photographers will target the professionals, but I targeted blokes like myself. I'd been a surfer, a pretty crappy surfer, but I'd been a surfer and really enjoyed it, and all my mates were surfers. So I targeted blokes like me who, 20 years in the water, didn't have not one single image of myself surfing anywhere. So that's what I did, and I used to put them on my website. Blokes used to come and buy them from me. So I did that, but then I got crook. So I was living in Japan. I got a bit of throat cancer, so I had to come home from Japan to deal with all that stuff. Went through all the treatment. Again, long story short, that was all pretty messy and ugly and horrible, but popped out the other end, and I went, okay, 40, I was 41 or 42 by that stage, and went, okay, what am I going to do now? And I thought to myself, all I want to do is take pictures.
Yeah.
So that was it. So I had no money. So middle of a GFC, people said, mate, you can't start a photography business in the middle of a GFC. And I went, well, I don't have any money. So half of nothing's nothing.
Correct.
So if it doesn't work, what have I lost? So that was it. So it was just head down and bum up. And here I am some, 12, 13 years later.
Doing the same thing, mate. I'm going to take your memory back for a little while, because I remember, the old surf shots. Can you see my surfboard in the back there?
Yep.
6'4" tri-fin there. I haven't shown anyone yet my board. But interesting enough, do you remember the yellow underwater Minolta cameras?
Yes.
You do remember those?
I do remember those. Yep.
Yep, that's what I had.
Yep.
It cost an absolute bomb, I think, in the day, because it was an underwater camera. But that was, I think, the best that we had. So, mate, you said that
I've got a story about that.
Go.
Yep. So I had a friend who had one of those cameras, and they lent it to me. We were going camping, and this is way before I was sort of into surf photography. I was a surfer, but I was into photography, and they said, "Oh, we've got this surf wave waterproof camera. Why don't you borrow that?" And they were very generous, and they let me take it away camping. Anyway, we're down at Byron Bay, and we paddled out, and I had the thing in my wetsuit, and these dolphins came up to us, like they were right there, as close as you and I. And I've got this camera, and I'm snapping away, and my mate's looking over at me going, "Wow, man, you're going to have some amazing photos," because these dolphins were just sticking their noses up at us. We were only two out there. Anyway, obviously we're back in the film days. Get the camera back out. Undone the camera. I haven't wound it on properly.
Oh no!
So when you do the back flaps, a normal film camera, you just open up one flap.
Yeah.
And you roll the film on.
Yeah.
With those ones, I believe, if it's the same one we're talking about, there's actually two flaps.
Correct. Yes.
So I didn't do the second flap. They didn't give me any instructions on how to use it. I just went, "Oh, it's waterproof." So thankfully I didn't stuff up the camera. All it meant was that I didn't have those dolphin photos.
You didn't have, and we never had filters back then. So
No.
if you took the camera underwater, you got all this murky stuff. And is it true that you have to put like a red filter on an underwater camera?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. I've
So
never heard that. Not these days.
What do you put on? Because when I was in this name drop here, when I was in Fiji, I did some underwater diving, some scuba diving, and a guy said to me, "Oh, you're just taking your GoPro?" And I said, "Yeah, mate." And he said, "You might need to put a filter on that." And he said, "Here, borrow my red filter." And I went, "Okay." And out of the water, it looked horrible, but under the water, it really brightened it up. So what filter do you use then for underwater shots?
I used to GoPro when I first started doing my wave art, but I never used a filter. I just used a straight up GoPro, and I used to do those half and half shots, or under and over shots. They're called, where you're sort of half under the water and half above the water. And I never used any filter.
Did you use a dome? Like they have those dome that you can...
I did in the end.
Yes.
Yep, I did. I had one for my GoPro.
Yeah.
And then I bought a proper housing and bought a dome for that. So I had a Nikon 610D or something like that. So that I use underwater. So not underwater. I shouldn't say underwater. We'd use for surf photography.
Yes.
So I didn't do a lot of scuba diving type underwater stuff. So I'd love to, but it's just another expensive hobby I'd be into, really.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting the path that you take. Like you decided one day that, you had she was a model,
Yep.
and she wanted some headshots done. Why didn't you go into bikini modelling?
Well, I do a bit of that because
you
that's
do?
all
Yeah.
part of it. Like, so headshots, so my headshots, basically I do corporates, models and actors. They're my main target market. I suppose 70% of what I do is corporates. Models don't have a lot of money, neither do actors.
Yeah.
So, and once a model's established, she doesn't need me anymore for a headshot. She's already getting work. So then the work that she does becomes her portfolio. So,
But they need to update, don't they? Like every what would you recommend, every 2 years?
depending on the model, and
Yeah.
I suppose in their late teens, early 20s, they would be changing a fair bit. Their body would be changing, their face would be changing.
Yeah.
Their style and their outlook on life would be changing.
Yeah.
So what they might shoot when they're 18, they might not want to have a bar of it by the time they get a little bit famous.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff can change as well. So, but yeah, listen, you update it as much as you need, I suppose. Your agency will normally tell you, hey, listen, update your portfolio or get some more images happening.
Because I look a lot on LinkedIn, you know, and you see there are a lot of corporates, and if you have a look at, you know, law firms and accountancy firms, and you have a look at, you know, anyone in finance or banking, and they just have like the, you know, the shot with their in-house camera. Do you think that really detracts from the company? Or do you think you really do need a good headshot? Because really, at the end of the day, I'm not interested in what the person looks like. I'm interested in what the person can do in my law firm or in my accountancy firm.
Yeah, I pick up your point, but I believe you do. Obviously, personal branding in Australia is nowhere near what it is in the States, for example. And I blame photographers. Photographers are not good enough at making people look better. So I have a couple of core beliefs. The first one is that most people look like crap in their photos.
Yeah.
The reason most people look like crap in their photos is simply because they've never been taught how to do it.
How to do it.
And my second core belief is that being photogenic is teachable. And if you teach somebody the correct techniques, and you know that I use, it's like 5 techniques that I generally use for people. And you apply those same techniques to every head, but every head is different. So how much you have to do with these techniques is going to be different to me.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we get into there. So, and I go take people down that path, and they get shocked at how good they can look once and it's like riding a bike, riding a skateboard, driving a car. If you get taught how to do these things correctly, you'll be better at it. And being photographed is no different.
Yeah, I remember the day that I came down and you took some of my shots, and it was interesting, you know, and you wouldn't think, wow, we're going to put aside 2 hours or 2.5 hours. I just need a couple of headshots. But it's so interesting, you know, the way that you pull your chin out and your head down and your head out at the side and different outfits that you wear. It does make a huge difference. What I want to do, I just saw a comment come up, and I might bring that up, but I've got to go through the word of the day because the degenerates and the deplorables here, they get really upset. So today's word of the day, no transition, people. No, I'll put a transition on for you. There's always everyone, oh, where's my transition? So you'll get, I can't even find, there it is, transition. No, bad luck. Here, word of the day. Today's word, Altair the Fourth. Today's word is argle-bargle.
Argle-bargle.
Argle-bargle. I'm thinking argy-bargy.
Do you reckon that's a typing mistake or a printing mistake or something?
I kind of hope so.
Because, yeah, I know argy-bargy. That's like
it's a
fighting.
Having a bit of a fight.
Yeah,
Argle-bargle.
bit of a wrestle.
Altair, you might have me on this one here. Argle-bargle. It sounds like to me it's somewhere where I would drink. Where are you going tonight, Brad? Oh, I'm going down to the Argle-bargle.
Argle-bargle.
The Argle-bargle.
Is it something to do with food?
Oh, is it?
And eating?
You reckon?
I don't know. Argle-bargle. I sort of feel like it might be a type of dish.
I think it could be.
European dish.
I've got a question here for you. Well, let's go with European dish.
Okay.
Let's do that. It's a European dish, and that's our answer. I'm going with argy-bargy. It's a bit of a fight. Maybe it's a fight in a restaurant that serves European dishes. Done?
Yeah, okay.
We've got that one.
I can have that.
I've got a question for you. Well, I don't have a question, but Brewed62 has a question for you, and it is, G-Mann and Brad, with Photoshop being so prevalent, How is photography going to overcome beautiful pictures that are genuine and not AI adjusted? You know, the auto-tune of photography. Yeah, you know, auto-tune with your voices.
Yep.
You got a response for that?
Well, I know in Europe that there has just been some laws introduced that will say that if your imagery, and it's mainly targeted at advertising agencies and the magazines, but you've got to actually state that this image has been photoshopped or has been changed to any significant degree. So, again, and I think that comes back to false advertising. You know, you use Angelina Jolie to advertise your skin cream, and then you take a picture of Angelina Jolie, who was beautiful anyway.
Yes.
But then you fix up her skin, so it's absolutely magnificent. So you now have to say, we've fixed her skin in this photo, or something along those lines. So it may become a sort of a legal thing that you have to do. Now that's happening in Europe. Not sure how it's going to happen here. AI, well, we're getting clever we're getting pretty good at Photoshop and all those types of things. But I think there's also an understanding out in the marketplace in relation to Photoshop. I tend to have a couple of rules around what I do. My rule with actors and models is that I'm not going to Photoshop you. Certainly not going to Photoshop your skin.
Okay.
Because the shots that I take are for agencies who are trying to decide, okay, they don't need to see how good your skin can look. They can do it themselves. They need to see what you actually really look like.
Yeah.
So my general rule is, if it's not going to be there in 3 weeks, I'll get rid of it. So, for example, what that means, if you've got a big scar down your face and you want to be an actor, I'm going to leave that scar there. Yeah. But if you've got a pimple on the end of your nose or on your lip or on your chin or something, I'll get rid of it. Because probably in 3 weeks it won't be there anyway.
That's a good rule of thumb, actually. That's a really good rule of thumb.
And I think people are getting better at identifying Photoshop. So they look at an image and they go, that's had the crap Photoshopped out of it.
Yeah.
So I would hate people looking at my work and going, that's had the crap Photoshopped out of it. So I tend to pull back and do less than, unless somebody really wants it. And then I'll go, okay, well, I can do this and do that. And, you know, I'll give my clients the choice.
I see lots of questions coming through here. And if, what I might do is that in about 5 minutes, I'm going to open up the lines. And if anyone wants to ask Brad a question about maybe the best way to take your shots, like from down here. I like Ricky Gervais when he does his shots. He does his in the bath and he's got his 3 chins just hanging out.
58 chins. And
58 chins, yeah.
He's a classic dude. I like him.
He doesn't really care about his headshot, does he?
He doesn't care about anything.
He doesn't care. That's it, yeah. I think that's...
Which is probably not a bad way to go through life, I think. Yeah. Probably makes him very stress-free and happy.
Well, we're going to open up the lines, like I said, in about 5 minutes. You know what the numbers are. I'll put them on the screen in a minute, but you know how to make a call and we'll answer your telephone calls. But before we do, Brad, I think let's just have a look at some news of the day.
Yes.
And let's just see, because the good man Rudy is watching and seeing what's going on here. So the LGBTQ nation has come out with this and says Twitter has enforced its ban on calling people groomers as anti-LGBTQ hate speech. So you can't go on Twitter now and write the name or write the word groomer. Tim Poole, who does Timcast IRL every morning around 10 o'clock after this show, because they stick around for this and then they go to Tim Poole, he got his account suspended for using the word groomer.
Okay.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Dog groomer?
Oh, okay.
Pet groomers? What do they do? They're done.
They're
done
and
dusted.
Yeah. I think it's with relation to naming, you know, in the trans world.
Right.
I have no idea. So for me, it's just a word. And the problem there is that if Twitter is now allowing the word, not allowing the word groomer, then that means that it must be allowing the grooming to happen. If you're not allowing the word groomer in there, so if I call out some libs of TikTok person and I'm going, this person's a groomer, clearly I can see what you're doing there.
Yep.
And then they say, right, you're banned. So by the way, I got permanently suspended on Twitter. I think I might have used that word.
Really?
I don't know. Permanently
suspended. And now you've done on YouTube as well, because you've said it about 8 times.
Yeah, YouTube will just now, all of a sudden, people will be watching this and it'll be buffering, and they'll be going, why is it buffering?
Yep.
Anyway, but. Yeah, it must mean if I can't use the word, it means then they're allowing the word, so we're normalising it. I don't know. It's all confusion all the way around.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of grey areas around all of that sort of
Yeah.
stuff that you could do
Too
yourself.
many grey areas.
You know.
Mate, 200 jobs lost as another Aussie food delivery company collapses. This guy was in competition with, I think, Deliveroo and Uber Eats. He had one that was similar, and he's now gone bust. I need to ask you, how did you go through not only the global financial crisis? I know that's when you probably started your business more so, and people going crazy, mate, you're crazy.
Yep.
But when the big lockdowns were going on, how did that affect your business?
The first 2 months when it all sort of kicked off in, what was that, March 2020, I had, as you do, headshots have got a pretty short lead time. So I don't have pre-bookings for 6 months, that kind of stuff. It's sort of like two weeks ahead, next week, to about tomorrow, that kind of stuff. So, but all that just went away.
Did it?
So I said to the wife, oh, shit, this might get a bit interesting in the next couple of months. So we had about 3 weeks where everything just died. And I think, and that's fair enough. People sat back and went, what's going on here? What are we going to do? But then it just sort of bounced. And I was actually quite busy during that time. And I was shooting a lot of people that I think were looking for that change of life. I've had this job, I've been this for 20 years, and now I want to do this by myself.
Change.
So that was cool. The biggest downturn I had was last November, when they opened everything up and went, right, rules are gone, see you later, everything's open, masks are off, do whatever you like. And that's when COVID sort of went through, certainly Queensland, Gold Coast, Brisbane, where we are. And that was a bit scary. So November, December and Jan were a little bit quiet. Then February came along and I think the ball started rolling again, which was nice. Then we had the floods.
Yes.
Then we had all that rain.
Yeah.
Then we had school holidays and Easter, and I don't know about other small business people, but certainly here we have about 85 long weekends in a row during that Easter early part of the year.
Wrong.
Every second weekend's a long weekend. It just drives me nuts because it's one less day that you can actually earn money. So, but yeah, seem to have come out of it relatively unscathed.
Good. That's good.
Which is
it's
nice.
tough. A lot of businesses, a lot of businesses suffered.
Yep, crazy.
You're seeing shops, for all these signs up everywhere.
Yep.
Folks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the lines up. There's the number that you want to call. I'll just put one number up there. You can go into the description box and you can have a look at also. There are other numbers that will come out from your country, but this is easy. Look, it's a data call or a data call. The ID 476-631-8505 and the passcode is 666. Of course it is. Grab that snapshot of that and then give us a call if you'd like, and you can ask Brad any question that you like to do with anything that you like, and hopefully we'll get everything right here. Let's have a look at some more news items here. Farmers beg Aussies to eat their way through an avalanche of avocados. Mate, have you ever seen how much an avocado is in the...
Yeah, I haven't checked. My wife normally does the shopping in our house and she gets the fruit and veg. But yeah, avos are pretty expensive generally from what I can remember.
I think it's like $15 for smashed avos on toast if you go out.
Well, I think you go anywhere out these days in Australia. Yeah. And I spent a long time in Japan, and food over there is considered, you just do it more often. But avos here, they're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're expensive.
Throw them my way, I'll have an avo.
Yeah, I love them. I love them. Avo on toast is amazing, but I wouldn't go and buy it down the local cafe because you're right, $15 is a bit too much. The only
reason I brought this story up here, Aussie Zoo, drastic measures to try and stop foot and mouth disease. Please, people, once and for all, if you're a journalist, it's try to, okay? There is no such word as try and. You can't try and. I don't know how many times I'm going to be saying this, but Aussie Zoo, drastic measures to try to stop foot and mouth disease. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. Spelled properly.
It's a bit of your English rant.
Oh, it's my English rant. That's all I've got.
Fair enough.
Oh, this is interesting. Internet reacts to twins' terrible baby names. So I punched through to the story to have a look. What terrible names can you give twins, like Will and Grace? Yep. So one's a boy, one's a girl. So that might give you...
But wasn't there a show called Will and Grace?
There was. I've got a mate of mine who actually called their son and daughter Will and Grace. Not being twins.
Deliberately?
Deliberately.
After the...
I think after the show.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
anyway, it's
Did you mention that they were Japanese?
Japanese. These are little Japanese babies.
Okay, so I've got half Japanese kids. My wife's
Okay.
Japanese.
Yep.
Yeah. So we called our kids Cody and Casey.
Oh, that's good.
So Cody spelt K-O-D.
That's good.
Sorry, K-O-H-D-E-E.
Yep.
And Casey is K-A-I-S-E-Y. And
Clever.
They're so that if their names are translated into Japanese, they'll still work.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's good.
So that was the idea behind that. But they're very, very marketing susceptible in Japan. Very, very marketing susceptible. Will generally only buy high-end goods. If a small business dude like myself, they probably would never come to me at all. They would go for the big headshot company with 48 headshot photographers and blah, blah, blah. So what they would call baby names, I don't know, something that is probably...
Well, if the internet reacts, and I'm thinking it's not good, it'll have to be something like, I don't know, Abbott and Costello or something ridiculous.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine. Something current?
No.
Probably? No.
So how about I give it to
so
you?
you know the name.
I know the names.
Ah, right.
I had to
You've
click
had-
through and I thought,
you've
what
had
could it be?
the
So
story.
I did the same thing. I sat here for about 10 minutes. I'm thinking, what names? They called them Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, what would you call your kids? One boy, one girl, Hiroshima.
And Nagasaki.
Although it's like calling them Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no.
but there's some sort of, historical
Yeah,
sort
of course.
Stuff
Yeah.
around those two cities that,
Maybe they should have called them Auschwitz and Dachau.
create a bit of angst. What was
Maybe
it
not.
now? I did hear a joke about
Tell me.
a woman that was having a baby and she fell into a coma and she had twins and she woke up a few months later and she said, your babies are healthy. And I've got to get the punchline right. And the nurse said, oh, don't worry. And who named the babies? And your brother named the babies. And
Come on.
that's right. So, okay, so there's a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what did he name the girl? And she said, oh, Denise. And she goes, oh, that's not a bad name. What about the boy? And she said, oh, nephew.
I think that deserves a ding. That's nearly like the was it the Spanish couple that had twins, and one was called Jose and the other one was called Hose B.
Hose B. They
That's
have
all
another
bad.
one that's got to be Hose C.
Yeah,
That's
it's
getting
all
worse
bad.
though. But Hiroshima and Nagasaki,
Not good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So the Japanese people have jumped up and down about this.
Oh,
or
I think the whole internet. Yeah, and they should. This is not good. Tourist decapitated by helicopter blades.
Was he
You know-
jumping up? Was he jumping up in the air?
Well, these are the rotor blades in the back. So he did the
okay.
who's the famous golfer people? The one-armed. What was his name?
Jack Newton. Jack Newton.
Newton, not Nicholas. No, he's the actor.
No, Jack Newton.
Newton.
Was it
Yeah,
Newton?
he
Jack
walked
Newton?
in front of an aeroplane propeller. Got his arm.
Yep.
So this kid here.
He can still play good golf even after he lost his
did.
arm, apparently.
Yeah, well, this guy's not thinking much.
And then there was the surfer who lost her arm as well.
True.
She was amazing.
Yeah,
She
and
was-
still great surfer.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know. It's sad. It's sad when you see stuff like that. But what do you do? And we get back to that, mate. I brought a story up yesterday, and I want to play the video to it. Have you heard that the Manly Sea Eagles
Yep.
have thrusted upon the players that they have to wear the Pride jersey? Now I think it's only for one game this Thursday,
Right.
And they're playing against the Roosters. And I think now there's been 7 players that have said, "Look, I'm out for cultural and religious beliefs."
Yep.
But I also just read in the news this morning that more players have now come out and said, "I'm out. I'm not going to be doing this." So I want to get your thoughts on that. But I've got Des Hasler. He's the coach of the Manly Warringah team. Whack on your headphones and let's listen to his apology. And I'm trying to work out what his apology means. So let's have a listen to this.
We wish to sincerely apologise for the mistakes we have made. We wish to apologise to the minority groups within the community who embrace the rainbow colours as a symbol of pride in who they are. what they stand for and their impassioned advocacy to enhance basic tolerance and acceptance within the diversity and inclusion space. We wish to apologise to the LGBTQ community who embrace the rainbow colours, to use these colours for pride and advocacy and human rights issues. It's played an integral role for the inclusion and diversity of all minority groups. We acknowledge the role of the LGBTQ community has played in breaking down the barriers for many other groups who also utilise the rainbow colours as a source of pride. We wish to apologise to the Australian Rugby League Commission, all of the NRL and the other 15 NRL clubs for creating negative news, shifting the spotlight from the launch of the Women in League round. We wish to apologise to our own playing group and staff for any confusion, discomfort and pain that mistake we have made may have caused them. We accept your cultural beliefs and hope that you can accept our apology.
Okay.
Okay, interesting stuff.
So interesting. I think what I get from that is that he's making a big apology, and I read also that this is one of the greatest speeches ever. Not a greatest speech by Des Hasler, but one of the greatest speeches ever. So my confusion with this is that they're introducing the women of league, and I think that's great. So that tells me that they're very diverse and they have very much inclusion. It tells me that. My thoughts with this here, only opinions also, it's the G-Mann opinion, is that there was no consultation. There wasn't a chance to go to the players and say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. I know it's going to be, against some of your cultural and religious beliefs. You might want to stick out this one here. We totally get that. But now, of course, they've thrown it in front of them and they're having to make a decision by this, I guess today, because the game's going to be on tomorrow night. Do you have any thoughts with that, about what you heard?
I think at the end of the day, it's all about communication. I think anything that you do in life is communicating with other people, particularly when you're in a footy club, particularly when you are dealing with an issue that is so front and centre at the moment in not only anything that we do, anything that is happening in the world. It's all about in that sort of particular space. So if you're going to, fly the flag in that particular area, you've got to make sure that you're right on the money with everything that you say and everything that you do. And the fact, and my understanding of it, is that they didn't communicate with the players who have certain religious beliefs. Now, at the end of the day, I am very much a champion of...
We wish to sincerely apologise for the mistakes
we have in our democratic society that we can always fall back on and say, all right, well, you can pretty much say anything you like. Grew up in my day, if you said anything you like, get a punch in the bloody nose. But when you're an Australian football team, you've got to be so careful about playing in that space. And I can understand all the good that they're trying to do, and I get behind them, but they've got to communicate. And if there are people out there with certain religious beliefs that where they're not on the same page, well then, they should have known this months and months and months ago, because apparently it's been in planning for 12 months.
Oh, has it? Oh,
it's been a long time.
I think the women in league, I think it's a great thing. I think it's great. If we should have, we should have the opportunity.
Is this trans women in league?
No, I just think it's women in league.
Just women in league.
Just women in league, and get the players out there, and and people can get there and watch the football. We've been playing it for a long time. There are women in cricket. That I think it's the Women's Cricket League, the WCL.
I think the Aussies are the best in the world.
I think we're the best in there. So I don't think that there's no inclusion there. I think what it is more so is that there are 7 players and now more that are just going, hey, Like, this goes against my religious beliefs. And I know he's made the apology to those players, but I think within that apology, he also said, you know, I hope you can see the way through and just whack the jersey on and suck it up. I think that's kind of what I heard.
Do you think they will?
Who's that?
Do you think the players will suck it up?
No, not if it's not if it's your religious belief. I mean, the Mormon religion is if you're a Mormon and you're involved in a car accident and you end up in hospital and the doctor says, hey, this girl needs a blood transfusion, their religious belief says no, we don't take the foreign body of another person, the blood, you know, or the water or the, you know, the bone marrow from anyone. We let nature take its course, and we have our God that believes in us. And if the doctor then goes ahead and does a blood transfusion, that doctor can be held under most gross misconduct. So why is it different here? That's
well, it gets back to the old Israel Folau discussion, which was for those of rugby. He was rugby union.
Rugby union,
and he made a post on. Didn't he make a post on Instagram?
He made a post,
or something?
yeah.
And a quote from the Bible or something or other about murderers and thieves and all the rest of it.
Homosexuals.
And he got poleaxed, and then he got canned from the Australian rugby union team, but then he sued him, and he actually won.
He won.
And he ended up with about $8 million in his pocket.
Something like that.
But
and then his wife got, because his wife was associated, and his wife was a great netball player or basketball player, and because she was associated with him, she also got banned from the sport.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
it
had nothing to do with what she had said, but it's just like, oh, you're the Folau clan. Well, might do something different here. Regina Gilby says, stop ramming this stuff down our throats. That's all we ask. You know, and I think it's more so, and I know you're not talking about me ramming it down your throat. It's more so that we do hear of this every day. We've got the pride flag. You know, we've got to put up the Indigenous flag on the Harbour Bridge, which is great. You know, I love that. But for $25 million, you've got to be kidding. And then we've got to have the Pride March, and then we've got to have Pride Month. And then so it's just so much of it. It's like, okay, we get it.
Yep.
You know, we totally get it. So I think, where do you go from all that? But good to hear your comments on that.
Jehovah's Witnesses. I saw a comment there. Someone said it was Jehovah's Witnesses that.
Oh, the Jehovah's.
That can't have the blood transfusion.
Is that what
I think
it
that's
is?
what they meant. Yeah, I just saw something come across the screen there. Yep.
Okay, you'll know. You'll know. The deplorables out there know more than me. I know I need to be fact checked all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's have a quick look to see what. I always like to see what's going on the TV here. So hang on a tick. What's the TV bringing up? Here we go. Made a lot. Oh, it's an ad. I just bring up the TV sometimes to see what's coming on. So with I'm fascinated with photography in the way that, you know, as somebody had brought up with all the Photoshop and the AI that's happening. What do you think is going to be the future of photography?
Well, I'm banking on the idea, and I have this discussion with photographers who approach me and they complain, and I watch YouTube feeds and Facebook feeds, and there's a lot of photographers complaining out there that, you know, how do we get any work when, you know, people can take their own selfies? My take on that is, mate, if you can't take a better photo of somebody than what they can take with their own iPhone, then you don't deserve to call yourself a photographer.
Good point.
Now, one of the challenges in photography is that a lot of people get caught up in the gear. Photographers, not everybody, generalisation, but on the most part, they're very much into their gear, the latest and greatest cameras and lights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Certainly for what I do, I believe it's more about communicating with my subject. And you've been into one of my sessions, and you know about the fact that I'm going to teach you how to look good in a photo. And that comes from the techniques that I have to embark to you. And now you've got to buy into that process.
I've got to trust that process.
Yes, and you've got to buy into it. If you don't buy into it, and I just, you know, because there's still a lot of photographers out there that will just simply stand you up against a wall and go, smile, and you'll be thinking in your head, now
the shit-eating grin.
All that does is really reinforce the opinion that most people have in their brain already. It's a very much to being photographed is very much a fixed mindset. There's fixed and growth mindset. Fixed mindset says, I hate having my photograph taken. I always look like crap, and I'm not photogenic. Now, most people have that spinning around in their brain simply because they've never been taught how to do it properly. So if you teach them what to do with their jawline, what to do with their eyes, what to do with their mouth, and teach them how to create their best expression, then they can always look good in a photograph. Doesn't matter where it is, whether it's out to lunch with the girls or the boys or at a wedding or whatever the hell you're doing. Someone sticks a camera in your face, you know what to do. But that comes down to communication. So I think there's always going to be a market for somebody, hopefully, that can make somebody look better than what they can themselves with an iPhone or with, AI. I think it's skin and all those types of things, and
there's a lot of that bait and switch too. Like you'll see on some profiles, you go, "Wow, that's a great shot," and then you go and meet that person. You go, "What the hell? What was that?
Yeah, who is that?
Who was that? That wasn't what I paid for."
Yep.
Yes, I pay for it. I mean, there's a good question here. Tricombe79 says, "I hope film makes a comeback." There are some diehard people who just love the film. You love the film.
Well,
you don't use film though. You use digital.
In my commercial work, I do.
In your commercial work, yeah.
But commercial work, I exhibit in a gallery in Surfers Paradise. I have recently, when did I do that? Early last year, bought a 55-year-old camera. It's called it's a TLR. Through what's it called? Twin lens TLR, twin lens reflex camera.
Wow.
Which is an old 6x6 negative.
Yeah.
It's a massive negative. The prints from that are unbelievable. So the story goes that a guy in Sydney, I bought it from him in Sydney off eBay of all places, but films had a big resurgence. Kodak have actually come out of receivership apparently.
Is that right?
And they're back because there's a couple of generations of kids that have never seen film, and there's a couple of big photographers in America now who are selling big prints, and they're doing them all on film. So all of a sudden, films become a little bit trendy again. So, I got given a film camera, and it was a beautiful old camera, 36mm, and I went, oh wow, this is amazing. And I'd heard about this trend, and I thought, oh yeah, I can take a few snaps with this. Anyway, I saw this guy on eBay. And he'd married a Chinese woman, And anyway, the father had died some years ago, but the mother said to him, listen, I've got this garage, it's full of boxes, will you go and clean it out? So he's gone in there, there's like 25 boxes full of these twin lens reflex cameras, 55-year-old cameras, still in their plastic. So he goes, so he starts selling them. So I got it for $200. It's like this beautiful, it's like a Rolleiflex. Remember a Rolleiflex? It's got the two lenses on top of each other. You remember those?
Video?
And you look down through the top of it.
Yeah.
And you flip up the thing and you look, and there's two lenses.
Yes.
Yeah. And one is the viewing and one is the actual for the photo. And you put, just the images from it are just beautiful. So I've been shooting some fine art stuff and blowing them up and exhibiting them in my gallery. They look amazing.
There's a great question here. It's Bruden62 says, at Brad, with photography as a time capsule, do you think holographic photography will become ubiquitous at all? At Brad, have you ever shot any video for 3D viewing? Couple of questions there.
Holographic photography, you'd probably have to explain that to me. I think I haven't
Isn't the holographic stuff where I might be sitting in the audience and Gerald will be sitting here and the hologram is now out at the conference centre and it looks like I'm a person out there. It looks like I'm there. Would you dabble in something like that?
There's always smarter blokes than me that would come up with a use for that.
Yeah.
Again, I suppose in this world where we're dealing with a global pandemic, that sort of technology is certainly something. I went to a conference. I was photographing a conference not long ago, and the guy that was supposed to be, I think he was a politician from memory, but he was supposed to be the guest speaker. So rather than have him there on the stage, they just zoomed him in on the big screen. So people still got his talk, but he wasn't there. So yes, to answer your question, yes, there probably are going to be some holographic sort of uses,
stuff.
I would think. 3D. I did a shoot on a boat a couple of years ago, and we had a 3D guy there, we had a videographer there, we had a drone guy there, and I was shooting the stills.
Wow.
So I used to shoot a lot of high-end boats, you know, $8, $9, $10 million yachts, 80-foot
Nice.
boats are beautiful, beautiful things. But so they used to get me on board and take some photos. So this particular company said, right, we're getting this dude in, we're getting these dudes in, and we're going to put together this whole package. So it looked cool.
Brood says holographic. The photo is a 3D image in a 2D screen. That might make a bit of sense. And then Tricombe says, I'll get your response on this. At Amore, I have 3 Electro 35s. Those are amazing cameras. Do you know
Electro 35s, no idea what that means.
Really?
No
Okay.
idea. Do you know what that means?
No. So Tricombe, just give us a heads up of what it is, or even send me a photo tomorrow and I'll put it up tomorrow. Yeah, so many different cameras.
It could be Electro, that could be the brand.
I think it could be.
35s is probably 35 millimetres.
Yeah.
35 millimetre cameras, that's what they used to be called.
And then what does he say here? At Brood 62, the clarity and even post-editing, it's much better, but they're still not the same. So that's what I want to know. I thought with digital cameras, with the digital camera, there's not a lot of wastage. So you look at it and you go, I can just delete that. But with the 35 mil, you only really get, like film, you only really get one shot at it, but you take like 100 of them, and then you've got, because I've seen the editing board, and you go, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that.
Yep.
So what's the benefit of film over digital?
Certainly in that respect, I don't think there is a benefit.
Okay.
Certainly digital from a commercial perspective, you know, going back to film would be, you know, like going back to the bicycle instead of a car or something. It's that kind of thing. For me, the film is more about slowing me down.
Okay.
And really thinking about and enjoying the process.
Yeah.
I enjoy that process. So I get the films developed, but then I've bought a scanner, so I scan them myself, and then bring them up, and I convert them to digital, obviously. And then I would print them from there. So I would then send them to my printer guy who would print them. So, but I enjoy that process, the slowing down, the fact that you've only got 12 shots and they're very expensive now.
Yes.
It's like, okay, you make sure all the stuff's right, and then I remember that fear that you used to have and I used to shoot weddings back on film, and you would shoot a lot, because you couldn't see what you had. And it wasn't until you got them developed that you went, oh, thank God those photos look okay. You'd be pretty comfortable that you would okay, but you wouldn't really see what you've got until you got your prints back.
Yes,
whereas
true.
digital, you go and shoot
Instant.
a wedding on digital now, you see it on the back of your camera, or you shoot I generally shoot tethered, as you know, into a big screen, so the image comes straight up on the screen. So straight away you go, oh yeah, that's good. Yep, let's move on. So if you're at a wedding and you're shooting the bride, and in a particular pose, you see it and you go, yep, that looks really good, light's good, yep, cool, let's move on. Off you go. Whereas when you're shooting on film, there was that fear that you had for a couple of days until you got the rolls, the prints back, and went, oh, whew, thank God they look really cool.
It's interesting with photography because, the individual will look at a photo and they'll go, I hate that one. That looks really bad. It makes me look really, I don't know, different. And yet you might look at it and go, that's perfect. Do you get that a lot? Do you get people saying, no, don't use that?
I do, and particularly in the corporate space. And one of the interesting things, it's what's happening with personal branding. And when let's say, for example, you're a lawyer. When somebody's on LinkedIn or one of our social media platforms looking for a lawyer or looking at lawyers, they're not critiquing your features. Yeah. So if someone's looking for a photographer, for example, and they come across my headshot and they go, And if they were critiquing my features, they would be looking at me going, he's got one ear sticking out more than the other. He's not going to know anything about photography. Or he's got a bit of a bloody honker. Big nose is what I'm talking about there. He's not going to know how to take my picture if his nose is that big. But people they're not thinking like that. They're looking for a photographer. Their question is, does he look like he's got half a clue about what the hell he's doing?
True.
So they're not critiquing your features. What they're actually critiquing is your expression or your vibe that you're giving off.
Yeah.
So, and that comes from the three things on your face that you can move to make your expression: your mouth, your eyes, and your eyebrows. Once you understand how to manipulate those three things. So I spend a lot of time with people in the studio trying to get them to stop critiquing their features, because people, we're very critical of the way that we look generally. Yeah. And we go, I don't like my nose, or I don't like my eyes, or I don't like my teeth, or whatever their particular thing might be. And I go, well, hey, listen, you're a lawyer, or you're a financial advisor, or you're whatever you do. People are not critiquing your features. They don't care. They're looking for somebody that's really, really good at your job. That's what they're looking for. That's the questions that they're asking. So it's a different mindset, and being able to get people out of that critical phase that they have about themselves is difficult sometimes.
Speaking of critiquing, I think Brood says, at Brad, what tips would you give a G-Man and a penny short of a buck donate, a spook? That's another story. With regards to their drone shots, that is a semi-producer. Spook is awesome at post-editing work. So you've seen some of the drone shots there. I think drones are very different to still photography.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not there trying to capture something that's going to go in the cinemas. I'm trying to capture something that's personal for myself, for my father. So I don't know. Are there any great tips? I think I don't know. I work off. Sorry, I'm just going to cut in. I work off a 7-second rule. The 7-second rule for me is that if I'm doing a drone shot, and if the drone shot amongst all other drone shots that I have is longer than 7 seconds, people will fall asleep. I know my opening shots is about 25 seconds, but that's the theme music. But mostly when I'm putting a shot together, whether I'm doing droning or GoProing, I try to keep it to about 7 seconds, because otherwise people just go, that's all right, I've seen it. I've seen ocean. Show me something else.
Yep.
Are there any other tips?
Well, I've done a lot of drone stuff. I have my own drone.
Cool. Yep.
I've sold a lot of drone imagery. I don't do a lot of video. I used to.
Yeah.
I forever sort of went, video, I should learn video. So I did something really hideous and did a personal vlog. And I said, right, I'm going to do a vlog every day for 12 months.
Right.
Until I understand the relationship between videoing and video programming. So I did that every day, posted it on YouTube. So that was back in 2015, 2016 I did that, just so I had a better understanding of video. I get approached a lot, can you do video? No, don't do it.
Not
it's
into it.
It's a whole new skill set that I have to learn. There's plenty of dudes out there. I have a relationship with a couple of guys who I go, yep, he's your man. Yep, go and see him, which is really cool. So I can't talk. I've done my own drone videos, and you're probably right. From an imagery perspective, I think the interesting thing about drone imagery is it gives you a different perspective.
Correct, yeah.
And that's really, there's a novelty value, I think, around it, and people will use it. And you can see some amazing drone footage. I saw a behind the scenes of one guy who flies down this road and then through a house and out over a cliff. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I'm thinking, how the hell does he get through the house without crashing into walls and doors and all the rest of it? And this is how he does it. He flies down the road, then he grabs the drone and he walks it through the house and then lets it go out the other end. I went, oh, of course.
Did you see? You saw the behind the scenes shot. How many they did?
Yes.
It's the girl running down the road, isn't it? She's running down the road. She's got a towel over her head. One guy catches it. They come out. They turn it around, and then the guy who releases the drone then has to hide. so that he's not in the shot. But there is a clip of the drone operator down in the bottom corner. You can see him doing that. It's very clever.
Yeah,
it's very
is.
clever how they do all that.
A lot of
I think
smart
there's
guys out
another one. Karen Martin says this. My father was an avid photographer. He had a dark room. I watched him transfer images, and he used liquid chemicals to create photographs in the early 70s and the 80s. Have you created photos like this?
Yes, many.
I bet
many.
you would love that.
I remember, when was that? Back in the 80s, yeah, middle 80s, in my mum's laundry. And I had blackout curtains, which I used to put up around the windows, and had an enlarger, which is what you put your film into it, and you shine it down onto a print, basically, and you see the image, and obviously it's reversed, so that was always tricky. But the dodging and burning that we do in Photoshop, which I still do now, I use Photoshop. We used to use old antiquated sort of circles and squares and dodging and burning with holes, cardboard with holes, because it was all about light transfer onto the paper. But
skill, total skill.
I didn't know this until quite recently, and I've been a photographer for a long time, and I love my mum, and I'm not having a go at her. But her first job out of school was in Sydney, and she was the equivalent of a Photoshop artist, and she used to colour photos. Like I said, she was an artist. She was
on the negative.
No, on the print.
On the print.
So they do the print in black and white, and then she would colour it in with watercolours and paints and stuff, so that you had a coloured image.
Wow.
And she was telling me about another lady that she used to work with, who used to sit in this dark room all day with the negative, and used to scratch off blokes' beards from weddings. You know, if they had a 5 o'clock shadow, she used to be able to look at it through a magnifying glass and scratch off their shadows off the negative. Amazing stuff they used to do back in the day.
I bet you would have cherished those photos if you had some of those photos with you, but you don't have them.
No.
Yeah. I bet you love the dark room because of the smell that it gives off. You know, the what is that chemical smell?
Oh, yeah, I can't even think of the chemicals. But yeah, it was well, I don't know. It's not like petrol. Petrol's a nice smell. I like the smell of petrol. I was never a glue sniffer. I didn't do glue when I was a kid. I missed all that stuff. But yeah, no, I don't think I have fond memories of that smell. I don't think. But yeah, it was. You know, in the end, I went, no, okay, it's too much, too hard. And then we had the whole instant sort of printing stuff. So it was just much easier to just go there and pay $20 and you'd get your prints and you go, okay, that one's good, let's blow that one up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was time consuming.
Yeah, that's really I think what it is. Mate, you're not going to believe this, but time's already up.
Really?
How quick does it go?
Wow.
I know, it goes quick. Some people didn't call in. I think they don't like hearing their voices on here, but they love putting the questions up here. Whack your headphones off. We're going to do a see you later to everyone. And everyone, if you wouldn't mind cheersing Rudy, thank Brad for being here today. And if you ever want a headshot done, Brisbane and the Gold Coast, isn't it?
Yep.
And what's the company called?
The Headshot Guys.
Theheadshotguys.com.
.com.au
for Australia. I've got a closing video. Let's have a quick look at that. This is what I feel like most days. I don't think there's any sound on this, but that's what I feel like every second or third day.
Is his head dipping in water?
I think it is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I think it's dipping in the water. Clever kid, though. That's raising our young ones for the day. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind just cheersing Rudy for me. I'll see you again tomorrow. I've got John Morgan on tomorrow, and it'll be a lot of fun.
that argle bargle.
Oh, argle bargle. Let me know what the argle bargle was, people. Yes, I'm on tomorrow with John Morgan. Bargle, there we go. Copious but meaningless talk or writing. Waffle and waffling. That's me.
I told you it was food.
I'm going to leave this one for Ginger Romas. Thank you so much. Cheers, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll be on tomorrow. And don't forget, if I'm not on, I'm not on. Have a great day.